So first up tonight, we're going to be looking at setting the diopter, which is the reticle, and focusing the reticle in a way that is a good way to do it, because many people don't actually know how to focus their reticle. It's a problem we deal with quite regularly, and it leads to eye strain, eye fatigue, all sorts of problems. I've got a couple of scopes here. There's a couple of different ways of doing it depending on the model of scope. So I've got a Viper PST here. This is what some brands will call a fast focus on the reticle. And this is the one where at the back here of the ocular piece, this part here, you use this portion and that will focus the reticle. Now some people think that this here actually focuses the picture downrange, but all it does is focus that reticle. And that's really a critical process to do. If you don't do that, your eye is going to be forever trying to get your reticle in focus as well as your downrange picture, and it's just going to continue to sort of bounce back and forth between the two. This is one method of doing it, which as I said, some brands call a fast focus because there's nothing locked, there's nothing done. You just grab it and you twist it accordingly, setting up. We'll go through how to set that up in just a moment. The other one here could be called locking focus. Again, different brands call it different things, but it's where you have like the whole rear of the eyepiece or the ocular will actually spin around. And then if you can see it here, there's a locking ring in here, which is actually, you can tension it up to wherever this sits, and that will lock it off right there. So then this one won't move at all. That's it's a good way to do it. And sort of, you know, it can't be bumped or messed with by other shooters who might perhaps borrow your gun. So we'll take you through how and why this is really important. Most scopes, or many scopes, are going to have this adjustment here, which is your parallax adjustment. And what that looks like is it looks like downrange picture is coming into focus. That is what that sort of does. It does parallax. We'll cover that off on another night. But often what will happen is you get to this point where you look downrange and it looks in focus, but your reticle seems fuzzy. So you turn your attention to your reticle and your reticle looks really sharp, but downrange looks fuzzy and back and forth. And what's happening here is your eye is sort of picking up the slack. It's making up for the things that are out of focus and then focusing on that reticle and bringing it into a sort of nice crisp picture. The problem with that, if you shoot for a few hours doing that, your eye is working really hard, and that for me leads to headaches, can lead to eye strain, can lead to sort of a number of problems, and you get really fatigued really quickly doing that because your eye is working significantly. And so a lot of people mess around with this, trying to fix that, and mess around with this, and the best thing to do is to set the focus on the reticle first up as the first thing you do, and then from there, once that is set, that's going to remain set. And then you can work through with this parallax adjustment here. So the ideal way to do that is to be in a position where you will turn your parallax all the way around to the infinity symbol, or at least its maximum. Do that first up, because we want that to not have a bearing on this process. And then we want to be using a background that is plain, really plain, because you want nothing that your eye can focus on. So the sky, nice grey or blue sky would be really good. Or a wall, but ideally, not details on it. You really want a clear picture that's not going to give you a focal point for your eye to look at. The reason that is because we want our eye to only look at the reticle. So once you've got that sort of chosen where you can do that, you will want to be able to look through your scope and wind this to somewhere where it comes into focus and it looks okay. All right, your eye will be accommodating a little bit, bringing it into focus, but at least you're not, if out here, you wind it out here and it looks fuzzy as all the time, as you wind in, maybe about there is where it ends up being reasonable. It's not quite perfect yet. And the way we do that is we'll get behind the gun, we'll keep our eye closed, and then you'll open your eye up and look through. Now it is that first split second that you want to see if that reticle is in focus and crisp, or more likely it's slightly fuzzy for a brief moment and then your eye will fix that, it'll focus on it. That's good, but that's your eye doing the work again. So great, close your eye again. We want to just make a little tweak one way or the other, open the eye again. And hopefully that time where it's a little bit fuzzy reduces or disappears. It's the eventual goal. You may have to do this process quite a number of times as you just fine tune that adjustment there. Once you get it to a point where you open your eye and the instant you see that reticle, it is nice and crisp and clear, that is where we want to be. That's a focused reticle. Now and get around to setting up your parallax and adjusting for the target you're shooting. That's a critical step. A lot of people miss it. A lot of people sort of tell me that they can't get it into focus, and we go through that process, and that resolves a lot of it. So that is first step, and often covered in the manual, but none of us read manuals, which is part of the deal. So check that out on yours, whether or not it's fast focus style or whether it's a locking focus style. There are a couple of scopes that have like a hybrid model. They have the Burris XTR3 has a sort of a combination of both, depending on how you set it up. So that is a really critical part of your scope setup.